Awesome. Thank you, Liz. All right. Next bit here. We'll get into the planning process and we'll go through in depth each one of these three categories. But if you have any questions while we're going through it, you can stop me and ask. So the first thing is the timeline of when we need your reservation in and the deadlines for all your event details. We'll talk about your event goals, how you're putting your event together, who your audience is, and then the event that you're looking to do and all the details that go into that. So first step here, want to look at our event timeline. If you're looking from 3 to 4 weeks out, that's when you're going to submit your reservation request into 25 Live. And then once that's confirmed, that's when you'd start conversations with either me, Liz, or Sadie. So you'd get to sit down and talk with us in a meeting or kind of correspond over email about those event details. And then at least 14 days out, you'll confirm all your setup and tech needs, any staffing details that you might have with us, so that we can get that all coordinated and get those requests sent out for you. And then 7 to 3 days out is when we'll accept any final changes, so any small adjustments that you need to make to your event. So then that way we can adjust those for you accordingly. And then 48 hours out is when you would notify us event managers if you're planning to cancel. Sometimes events get canceled for weather or because maybe all of a sudden your executive board can't all meet on this Wednesday night anymore. And maybe you guys need to switch it to a Thursday night. So all of that needs to happen within that time period there. And then the day of your event, we're there to help you set up, execute the event, and obviously have fun. Any questions there about the timeline of how that works out? Beautiful. Okay, I'll keep going. Next step would be to establish your event goals. So when you're sitting down with your executive board, these might be some of the questions that you guys want to go through. So step one, what's the purpose for this event? Why are we doing it? What do we need to get out of it? Are we fundraising? Are we building awareness? Are we trying to get more people to be involved and join our organization? Are we trying to find the community that we want to be a part of? So we want to think, why are we doing this in the first place? Then who is our audience? Is it people who are coming because they want to join our organization again, or maybe they're interested in the same things that we are? What are the motivations for the people that are coming? And then third step there is the concept. So what's the main idea? Are there certain items that we need for this event? Are there activities? Do we need to hire specific vendors for this event? So depending on the scale and the complexity of it, you might want to consider those things in the first couple steps of your concept, because maybe that plays into your budget and how much you're requesting, right? Like a small meeting might not take any money, while something that's a little bit bigger might need a little bit more forethought and request a little bit more funds from SGA. So we want to think about those things early on if we can. Then step 4 is the members. Who are we having to come help us put this event together? What are those responsibilities that we're asking of other people on our board or of the attendees? So getting that outlined of maybe specific tasks or responsibilities that you want each person to be in charge of helps ahead of time. So some organizations have specific board members that are in charge of putting together specific events for them or in charge of managing different meetings. So that all is good to outline ahead of time. All right. Now I'll get into the type of events that we have. So they fall into these 5 main boxes, and we'll kind of get into each one of these because they all have different guidelines and things that we want you to keep in mind. So first is our indoor events, and those are primarily happening during these peak main event hours. So you'll see that for most of main campus, Tuesday through Thursday from 7 to 10:30, Friday from Saturday to 7 to 11:30 p.m., and then Sunday from 7 to 10:30 p.m. are those main event hours there. So you're going to choose your date really carefully, make sure it falls within those times, and then consider how many people are coming, and then consult us event managers with any specific safety guidelines that you might need. So if your event is larger, maybe we're expecting over 500 people, that's when we would consult with you and figure out what those guidelines need to be. Then we're thinking about outdoor events, so things that might happen out on some of the fields that we have, out on Towsontown Field or Tiger Plaza. You want to think about those dates really carefully, just because since those are a little bit more major and require a little bit more planning, you might want to think about what things go into those a little bit earlier. So we definitely want to look at those safety guidelines. Because they're outside, you might need some additional staffing or safety procedures that you need to follow. And then we want to consider, is this just TU students that we're involving in this, or are we inviting external guests to come on? Because that might add different safety procedures and requirements for your event. An outdoor event specifically can only be 4 hours long. So you want to keep that in mind when you guys are planning things there. And then our next one is going to be weekly meetings or practices. So these are just where business is being discussed, and they're generally held in academic spaces. So we see this more happen in the spaces of LA, in Burdick, where you're just having a small meeting with maybe your board or your organization, and you guys are just discussing your plans for the semester, what needs to happen, kind of coordinating things together. So not meant to be for social events, not meant to be for getting people involved in your organization. A little bit different there. So those are only limited to 3 hours. So keep that in mind as well as you're booking those reservations. And tabling is going to be what you've seen probably more popularly around the union. So just distributing that information, promoting those events out, recruiting people, maybe fundraising, and that's going to be limited to just the members that can be present for those tablings, no one else. And then it's only limited for 4 hours. Any questions there? Awesome. And then I'll move on to Burdick here, which you guys heard Alyssa talk about, and she went in depth about it and did a great job there. So any sports related requests, specifically if you want to have it in Burdick Hall or on one of Burdick's fields, go directly to them and they go through and approve it and go through the process that Alyssa explained there. So there's some forms you have to fill out. There's communication that you need to have with them. But anything else? Anything else there for you guys? Awesome. Okay, I'll keep it moving. All right, before submitting your request, we want to review some of the important event details, and I'll kind of go through this pretty fast because it's more of what we already talked about. We want to consider how many attendees you're having. Is it outside or inside? What locations are going to work best, right, that fall under those requirements? So can we have this event in a classroom, or does it need to be in an event space because this is a social event? Is it a tabling that we want to have inside or outside? Because maybe it's a nicer day and maybe we'll get some more people when we're trying to fundraise. Is this something that we want to have out on a field in Burdick because we're planning to do a soccer game all together? But, you know, maybe we want to do something else somewhere. So think about those things when you have making those reservations again. Then do you need a rain date or a specific backup time or location? Those can be extra details that you can add to your reservation that'll help us when we sit down with you. Then you want to think about your setup. How many tables and chairs you might need, what arrangement. Are you guys all sitting in a classroom style together? Maybe you need a table to write on, or can it just be theater style? People come in, sit down, listen, and someone's giving a presentation. We want to think about the capacity of that room. Are we expecting 50 people versus 100 people? All of that is going to play into it there too. I think Chris mentioned this and did a great job on the other call too. Do we want to incorporate some pre-event time to decorate because maybe we're having a celebration or an end of year party and want to do something a little bit more special? So we need some time to set up those things. Then we want to think about our audio and visual tech. Do we plan to present something? Is there going to be a performance? What budgets do we have to keep in mind for all of the equipment and labor that's going to go into requesting those things? So our team can assist you and help you navigate what the tech capabilities are in each room because each one is a little different. So if you have those specific questions, we can help you with that as well. Perfect. Any final questions before I move into the 25 live piece of this, where you actually get to sit down and make those requests? Because normally that's where people have the most questions. Awesome. Okay. I'll keep it moving. You guys just must know everything, which is great. So it makes my job easy. Putting in your requests in 25 Live. The first thing you are going to do is go onto Blackboard and take our training. What confuses and mixes up most orgs is that only 2 people can be authorized users. and be able to make 25 live reservations and do the Blackboard training. Any questions about that? So if you're having any trouble being able to book a reservation or be able to get onto 25 live, that is where most people run into the problem there. And all of that reset in July. So maybe if you were a requester before and now can't do it, you might need to retake the training again and go through that process to be able to put in your requests for this semester. So just keep that in mind. But once you do all of that training, fill out that info form, log into 25 Live, you'll be able to do the reservation request form, and you'll get a confirmation message from reservations management. Want to keep in mind that for requests only, all requests are subject to change. So just because you're submitting a request for a specific location doesn't mean that you're 100% guaranteed it. So a request is just a request. We'll send you confirmation again when your reservation is confirmed. And then that is the point where maybe you can answer any questions or ask any questions and get them answered. So then that way we can process your request accordingly. But on the left side here, you'll see those dates to note. This is when the calendars will be opening up for us. So October 27th is going to be the time that spring 2027 semester weekly meetings and additional events can be submitted. And then April 6th, 2027 is going to be when we'll take 2027 and 2028 requests for 1 week per semester and any weekly events for fall. So it kind of rolls in that rotation through the calendars. And then July 2nd, again, like I explained earlier, is when that enrollment opens and when we open it to new authorized requesting rulers there. Perfect.
I think we might have one person with a question. Emmanuel,
Okay.
did you want to unmute yourself or did you just want to type it in the chat?
Hi.
Say, Emmanuel, if you're in the room with someone else who's on the Zoom, that might be why it's like the sound is doubling like that, or maybe you logged in twice. So just double check.
Yeah, I logged
Okay.
twice.
Okay. Okay, I
Hi.
gotcha.
Yeah, sorry
What's your
about that.
question? No,
But
you're good.
yeah, I was trying to look for how to raise my hand. I couldn't find it. But
No,
my
you're fine.
question, my question is, okay, so say I put in requests.
Yes.
Is the process for accepting requests during the summer different than the school year, like the semester? Because um for my org, we had put in requests the day it opened, which was in like July, like July
Yeah.
14th, I believe. And it's taking like a really long time for some of these
Okay.
approvals to like get through. And like, yeah, it's just really scary.
Yeah, well, don't be scared, is what I'll tell you first. We're going through them in priority of how they go in the calendar. So events that are more upcoming in the next couple of weeks are the ones that we're looking at and processing first. So don't panic just yet if you haven't seen those confirmed requests and reservations come through. So they're working through them as best we can. But if you think that we've missed your request and maybe you're getting a little bit worried, you're more than welcome to start sending some emails reservations way, and we can put their like email in the chat in case you have like more questions or concerns. But right now is like prime time for everyone to submit their reservations. So I think we have like hundreds of reservations that are in our queue that we're going through. So I would say be patient with us a little bit there. And then Liz, if you want to add to that.
I just want to add on just for full transparency, we did lose one of our reservation staff members this year. So we are kind of working with a minimal crew, so it may take a little bit longer. So trying to get those reservations in sooner rather than later will definitely, I think, help everyone. But if you can kind of bear with us a little bit longer, I know as Lourdes was mentioning, there are a lot of requests that come in. So we are trying to work through them as best we can. But if you have anything specific, feel free to reach out to reservations and they can give you an update.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Perfect. I'll move on to the next bit. So this is specifically for requesting any academic classrooms. Just keep in mind when you're putting in these requests that they only happen in the evenings after classes are happening because they are all based off of the academic semester. So when you're having your normal classes in these academic buildings, all of the meetings that you can sign up for, times that you can sign up for, are after that. So after 5 p.m., Monday through Friday would be those times. And then those closings and dates are all there. So I'll leave that there for you to look at. But no weekends in any of the buildings in the middle there. So keep in mind, most of those are probably going to happen during the weekday. We don't allow food in Burdick Hall or in the science complex. So I know there was a question about that in the main chat as well. Sometimes we're moving you to a specific classroom because it fits the requirements of your event. So if you're planning to have snacks, maybe during your first meeting, that might be the reason why we didn't book you in Burdick, even though that's why you asked for it. So we'll change things around to kind of work with you. The types of activities that are allowed, again, just to cover this, general business or discussion meetings, any guest lecturers, professional workshops, and just to double down on this, liberal arts doesn't allow any social events, games, crafts, things like that, just because they want to keep those spaces as clean and manageable as possible. So if you were thinking of using LA for any of those activities, you might get placed into another space. All right. Requesting in 25 Live. Accuracy counts, and that's a big thing. So please make those counts and numbers, descriptions of what you're asking for as exact as you possibly can to what you really need in that space. Want to make sure we're requesting the correct type of event. So I explained to you what those are. Want to make sure we're putting in those categories correctly when you're going through there. The time and date limits. So we talked about that a little bit, but it will like prompt you and say which ones are permitted and which ones aren't. So when you're requesting those, make sure it falls within those time limits and deadlines there. I saw someone's hand go up. Do they still have a question? All right.
Yes, I have a question.
Okay. Yes.
So would the event services be also count for the Albert Cook Library if we want to host an event in the library, or is it separate?
The library is a different like set of things, so they control the spaces that happen there. So if you're requesting like a study session, you would have to go through like Cook Library's reservation system to be able to request those spaces. So what we're talking about here, like ECS and event spaces, that's a little bit different of a process.
Okay.
So not something I have control over, but we can definitely give you some resources later in the chat if that
Okay.
helps.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Hi, Mars. Do you have a question?
Yes.
Okay.
So our for my club, we had a like a room coordinator, or we thought we did, but we couldn't get in touch with them for like the entirety of the summer. So
Okay.
now we sort of last minute have to figure out who our room coordinator is going to be and handle our like advisor as well, because
Okay.
we just haven't gotten in touch. Like we've been trying to reach out to people, but it's very difficult
Yeah.
over the summer.
Yeah.
I guess my concern is that we won't be able to book a room in time, or like because of all
Okay.
of the requests that are coming in all at once, that our request wouldn't be like able to go through, because I think that the president is going to be taking on the role of room coordinator.
Okay.
But I'm not entirely sure how fast we can handle that, considering it is all sort of last minute. Like I think we figured out the
Gotcha.
person who we were counting on dropped out like yesterday.
Gotcha. Okay. Why don't you direct message me your contact information and I can help you outside of this since this is like super specific instance.
Yeah.
So just send me your information and I'll try to do my best to help you out. How's that sound?
Okay, should I put it in the chat?
Yeah, direct message me in the chat and that should be great.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Just
Okay.
one other thing sorry, if I could
You're good.
add is if you want to go ahead and get someone to be that approved room requester, you can always swap it out in the semester. If like you decide you want to change roles or maybe there's a new member that wants to take on that responsibility. The Blackboard course will remain up for the entire academic year, so we can swap people out as needed. Just if you already have those two, we would just ask you tell us who they are replacing. That's the only extra step.
Perfect. And then I see a question here in the chat. If we need a room most of the day, like 10 to 6 on a Sunday, is there a room on campus that we're allowed to do that in? Yes, there is. We have spaces in the Union and West Village that can accommodate those that are outside of like normal academic buildings that we can add you into. So when you're looking to put in those requests, just make a note about that for us there. These 4 tabling requests to just keep in mind. If you're looking to do any pieing, any splash a member type of events, those have to happen outside and in those listed locations there. So Burdick South entrance tabling, under the lecture hall or under North entrance, or like the main locations that we do for outdoor tablings, but pieing and all those like messier sort of ones happen normally on Tiger Plaza there, just so that it's easier to clean up. For any of the indoor tablings, we do ask that you check in at the Union Info Desk or in the West Village Info Desk with a valid TU ID or just your regular ID. That way we can check you in, make sure you are the right group and that you are sitting at the right table. If you're not, one of our building coordinators might come over to you and ask you to leave, or there might even be further consequences if you no-show or in the wrong place. So we want to make sure that you are at the correct tabling location. So this can happen for bake sales, and those are permitted twice a week. So we have that mainly in the Union there. So just know that there are consequences for those things. So if you are going to cancel or move events, just let reservations or your event manager know that you're not planning to do that tabling anymore. All right, requesting in 25 Live. If you need to find a space but don't know what space to do it in, if you forget all of what I've told you here, there is a button that you can click that's called Find Me a Space. And there it'll pull up a search of all of the locations that are available to you, and will essentially let our reservations team know that they can pull from that list to find a place for you. Then if you need an additional time, like we already talked about, some pre-time to set up or some post-time to clean up, you can add that time into your request as well. But the biggest thing here is that if you have any reservation-specific questions, use that email that's listed there, reservations@towson.edu, and Heather can help you with any of those questions or troubleshooting those things there. All right, I'm going to speed through the end half of this just so that we can get you out of here on time. But if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. It's probably going to be the easiest way from here on out. So if you have a confirmed reservation, what do you do now? So it's your responsibility to communicate all of your event details to your event managers. So sit down, have a meeting with us, respond to our emails if you see one from one of us, review those expenses, reach out to catering if you need to, vendors, performers, and make sure that SGA Finance has all of the forms and requests that they need. Plan accordingly with your members and your guests to make sure they have all the right information before the event happens. And then be mindful when it is time for your reservation that you get out at the time that you need to clean up and follow those rules of those spaces that Chris was talking about to just avoid any conflict, people coming in, asking you to leave, and things escalating from there. This is like going over some of the things that we'll talk about in your meeting when you sit down with either me, Liz, or Sadie. So before the meeting, consider any accessibility if you have specific members that have or need specific accommodations, sustainability if you want to request compostable things from catering, collaborating with different organizations. Are you guys having a lot of decorations and food? So maybe we need to consider having some extra trash cans in the room for you. Are we having a lot of external guests that might need some more parking? And any budgeting and finance things there. Consider all those things and talk to your org members so that when you do sit down with us and have the meeting, we can discuss all of the main details and give you the right information that you need to coordinate your event well. And then after the meeting, I us event managers will send you what we call a BEO, which outlines all of the information that we have for your event. So we want to make sure all those details are as accurate and correct as possible. So then that way we can put together your event the best way that we can. So when that gets sent out to you via email, just double check that all of that information is correct, because that is what we're looking at there. All right, risk management. There are different ways that you can maintain your event and make sure everyone is staying safe and having fun. So for Arrival on the left, there are a few different ideas. You can have a check-in welcome table is probably the most popular one. If you want to go as far as having online registration or ticketing, that's another great way that we see happening. But as the event gets a little bit bigger, maybe we want to consider wristbanding, having liability forms, and maybe even having magnetometers come into your event to ensure that everyone is safe. And then in terms of event flow, having and thinking about specific entry and exit points so that everyone can come in and out and it goes well and everyone knows where they can leave and come from. We want to consider if people are allowed to re-enter, if we need to have a line for specific things, and thinking strategically about the placement of each one of your activities. So you see that a little bit more in outdoor events. So that's why we have this picture here for you. But just keep that in mind if you're doing something that's a little bit bigger. Some typical ECS expenses that we see, and maybe ones that will come up a lot as you're submitting your budgets, are any audio and tech needs. So if you're using a screen or projector in a space, if you need a microphone, if you need to, let's say, like have a clicker or a keyboard, or maybe you're bringing a band and they need specific equipment to plug into, all of that would go into our request there. Any staffing requests, so if you're having an event outside with amplified sound, you'll need a sound monitor. If you need safety and security staff, that's our safe management staff there. Maybe you need a medic because you're doing a lot of physical activity for your event, or because the safety parameters require it. All of that falls into your budget there. Any setup needs there, so things that are anything outside of tables and chairs. So you think about pipe and drapes, so those like fancy black curtains that you see in this middle picture, any staging, all of that goes into that setup additional cost that you'll see there. And then outdoor events, you might want to consider having trash cans out there, these yellow barricades that you see in the bottom picture, or any like additional vendors that you have will require extra costs there. All right, I know there's a couple questions that got into the chat, and I will answer them when we get to the end of this if they haven't already been typed out for you there. Quick thing here with events and food. I think Chris went over a lot of this already, but this is the common stuff that we see groups 1 and 2. Food trucks have become increasingly popular, so just to keep in mind that University Catering or Airmark does have a $250 fee associated with bringing each individual food truck to campus. So when you're doing that, keep that in mind as one of your costs there. He talked a little bit about a food waiver, so I won't double down on that for you. But if you're considering doing any food fundraising, like bake sales, things like that, just keep in mind that they do have to comply with certain safety and health requirements. So no giving out pizza, no dairy or cream products that require temperature-specific control. Any items that would need heating or cooking on site. So keep it to your simple like baked goods. Kona is like a big one, not Kona ice, but like shaved ice, things like that are normally good to go there. But if you have any questions, talk to us event managers and we can let you know if it's good or not. We do have pouring rights agreement with Coca-Cola, so just keep that in mind if you're giving out certain objects. So we want to keep in mind that where we run into issues is with Pepsi, Celsius, Red Bull. There might be different reps that might reach out to your organizations and want to be sponsored. But for specific events, you might not be able to hand out their products or hand them out at tabling locations at all. So just keep that in mind there. And then the biggest one around Thanksgiving time, potlucks become a big thing, but they can't be served at events where you're going to have guests. So just keep that in mind there. And then for food and beverages, they need to have a licensed commercial food vendor be giving you that food. So sometimes people are like, my grandma is a really great cook and she wants to cook something for my club for this event. Unless grandma has a licensed commercial food vendor license, she can't do that for you. So just keep that in mind as well. All right. And then here's some relevant policies that some groups run into here. I'll let you read the specifics about it. But the biggest ones we see are fronting. Please make sure that all of your events are for your specific organization. They're not for anyone else. Because there are specific resources that we are giving just to TU students, that's why we're keeping it just to you. Raffles require a little bit more of a process. So if you're planning to do that for any of your fundraising type of events, keep that in mind there. And then noise and lighting policy. So we talked about having amplified sound, having a sound monitor, all of that need to follow those regulations there. And then some space and reservations do's and don'ts. Do utilize the rooms in the Union and West Village Commons if you have a confirmed reservation for them. So if you are meant to be in that space and you have reserved that space, great. But don't walk into those open spaces without a reservation just because you may see that the little like sign in front of the door says available. Even if the door is open, if you haven't made a reservation, you can't go in. Someone will eventually ask you to leave. So we want to ask that you honor the processes that we have and keep up with those. So only use those spaces if you have a reservation. Don't move the furniture in the lobby areas. Additional charges may be applied to your event if lobby furniture is moved inside your event space. So you can request for us to move furniture around or to get the right tables and chairs that you need in the space. So just communicate with your event manager if things happen on the day and you need a couple extra chairs or tables. We can try to help coordinate that with you as best as we can. But don't get in the habit of like taking things from the Union lobby spaces into your rooms when it's not meant to be in there. And then we do want you to keep in mind that when your reservation ends is when it ends. So make sure that you're giving yourself enough time to exit on time so that you're not running into someone asking you to leave. Any questions there? Let's see. Carly, I'll get back to your question in just a minute here when we see this, if no one else types their response there. Event advice here, work together. You guys are all a team and probably have a board of people that are all coming to you with all of their ideas and information. Try your best if you're the person coordinating these events to gather all of that information and assign things and delegate them as much as you can. When the event is actually happening, you want to place yourselves in places where people can come to you with questions, but you're also proactively covering all of this space. We want you to get the word out about the events that you're having and communicate the right details to these people. So I know Chris talked about advertising in different spaces like across campus, but making announcements about your event details and updates is great. So make sure you're being proactive about that communication and answering any questions that people might have. And then don't be afraid to lean on us, to lean on me if you have any questions. We're here to help you with your events. And so are your advisors for your organization. So sometimes we work really well directly with them to help coordinate all those details for you too. Okay, I know we only have 2 minutes left, but this is our Q&A section. So I'm going to answer any questions that I see in the chat first. And then if people want to unmute themselves really fast, we can do that. But if you want to stick around for a couple minutes more, you're more than welcome to. But I have to kick you out at 3:50 there. Does the distribution of food rules apply to small members only social? For instance, my organization is hoping to have a small fall get together with apple cider and donuts on campus. That would be fine. If it's staying with you and your members and you guys are just bringing snacks, apple cider and donuts kind of fall under that category, and it's just being enjoyed by you guys, you're more than welcome to, if it's underneath that $100, to just do it your own and have it be your own thing. As long as you're not, harming yourselves in any way, I don't see any health concerns with that. being on campus. So all good there. Any other questions? Could I go back to the slide where it shows what buildings allow what kind of events? Yes, I can. Let me find it. Hopefully that's the one you're talking about, and I'll jump to the next question. Is there a sign-in or QR code or anything at the beginning of the session? No sign-in required, no QR code required. You're all good. I'm just happy that you guys are here and curious about all of the things. So if you have taken a look at this slide, I'm going to hop to the very end here where you'll see all of our contact information. So if you have any other questions, let me go back. Hold on. Okay, let me stop sharing. There we go. Now I'll go all the way back again. Flip through all this. Sweet. You'll see our contact information. So you'll see my email there. You'll see Liz's email, Sadie's email, Heather and reservations email there for you. So that way you have the best ways to reach us if you have any more questions. But I know some people direct message me some questions. So I'll try to get back to you on those. But other than that, thank you guys so much. If you guys want to head back to the main session now, you can. But I appreciate you guys and all your questions and your time with us. So thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you, guys. Awesome. Yep, guys, you can head back to the main session. I saw someone put that in the chat. There you go. Thank you, guys.
All right, well, great job, Lourdes.
Thanks.
Maybe our friends, no one has any
Sweet.
questions. Maybe they got up.
Well, in the meantime, I can stop the recording, but if anyone has questions, they can unmute themselves now.